Welcome to the Pat White Show.
So, if you get an opportunity, I would appreciate you clicking on the like if you like it, and subscribing if you want to, and apparently it'll help me out. Beyond that, hope you enjoy what I'm doing. Well, some sad news has come out of the capital of Indiana, in Indianapolis, the passing of 65-year-old Jim Irsay, president of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Mr. Irsay apparently had been suffering some maladies, if you will, for somewhat of a lengthy period of time. He's had some problems, but apparently he passed away in his sleep, as I said, at the age of 65. Now, the bigger question now is, with his passing, what is going to happen with the control and the management of his football team? Mr. Irsay has 3 daughters, Carly, Casey, and Kaylin. Now, from what everybody is saying, from the word of the street is, his daughter Carly, her name is Carly Irsay Gordon, she apparently is the one who's going to be taking over the control of the team. But here's where it gets very interesting. Shortly before his passing, Mr. Irsay appointed none other than, well, Peyton Manning. That's right, Peyton Manning to be the assistant general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Peyton Manning loves the Colts. He got his start with the Colts when he came out of college. Drafted by the Colts, took him to the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, ultimately went to Denver, won a Super Bowl for them, but still came back. A lot of things in Indianapolis are named for Peyton Manning, and frankly, in Indiana, Peyton Manning is an idol. He certainly is. So, as assistant general manager, what is his role going to be involving with the team? And if Carly Irsay Gordon takes over the team for her father, what job, what position, and how is she going to utilize the famous, legendary Peyton Manning? Right now, those are questions that need to be, well, answered, and they will be eventually. But is there a possibility that maybe, just maybe, that Ms. Irsay Gordon says to Peyton Manning, hey, you are the life of this team. You are the person of this team. You are thou my representative as the individual who is running the Indianapolis Colts. Wouldn't that be an interesting situation? Or maybe Peyton Manning doesn't want that job. But the fact that he was willing to accept the position as assistant general manager tells you a great deal going on. Is the general manager going to be sacked? Hate to use that word. And Peyton Manning becomes the general manager? Or will his daughter say, I'm going to take you up even higher and put you in charge of the entire club because she doesn't want the job? We don't know. No one knows. But now we do know this. Peyton Manning was selected by Jim Irsay to be the assistant general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe it would have been higher. We don't know what he believes and what should be done with Peyton Manning. That's a big story that's going to open up, and a lot of people are going to be talking about the fate of the Colts and the fate of its assistant general manager, as well as, well, his daughter, who appears now to be the one to inherit the title of the owner of the Indianapolis Colts football team. Not the first woman. Trust me, it's happened in the past, and it'll probably happen in the future. Something new that you didn't know, but where's Peyton Manning going to be now? It will be a very interesting story, and let's see how it plays out. You probably heard about the potential dangers of lithium batteries. Now, when you're talking about cars out there, fire departments are very concerned about the batteries in cars because, well, they're lithium. And if a car, an electric car, gets into an accident, that crushed battery can start a fire. It happens when batteries, lithium batteries especially, are crushed or beat up or damaged. They actually can catch on fire. And then the fire trucks pull up at a location. Here's a car burning. You can't put water on electric fire like that. It gets even worse. Well, it turns out the problem isn't just in electric cars, it's in homes, like your home. Do you use an EV, a battery, a lithium battery in your home? Do you have lithium batteries in any of your appliances, any of your toys, your things that you play with, lithium batteries? If you do, how do you dispose of them? The average person, apparently in Fort Wayne, disposes of lithium batteries that have gone bad by tossing them in the trash. Well, then the garbage company comes, the GFI comes with their trucks to pick up their garbage at your home, correct? All right, they dump the garbage out of your garbage container, your bin, and the garbage truck, well, it dumps in the garbage truck. But what the garbage truck does is it squishes it together, squeezes it together so they can put more stuff into a truck. So every time they get a big load, squish the load down smaller. When you squish it and there's lithium batteries in that deposit that you've dumped into your bin so that you don't want to get rid of it, just say, I don't want anything to do with it, toss it in the trash. When you get it squished, that battery can start on fire. Imagine that. A fire in a garbage truck? Well, can happen, but I tell you what, the concern is it is happening at the trash facilities held by GFI. One battery could cause $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of damage. And now they're having to use specialized infrared systems, run by third parties to inspect 24 hours a day. When they're working on trash and getting the trash compacted and ready to dump and put into the the fill lands, they're having to watch it to see if a fire starts up in their facilities. You imagine one lithium battery that you throw into the trash could start a fire that could destroy the entire facility at a GFI disposal plant. One battery, and you can do it. So if you're taking those lithium batteries that you love so much for the gadgets you use, and they say, well, it doesn't work anymore, it's not charging, and you decide to throw it into the trash, you may be creating a potential hazard that could cause some serious, highly expensive damage. So what do? Did you know that you could take your lithium batteries to your Do-It-Best store, Do-It-Best hardware store, or even a Batteries Plus? Just take in the batteries, say, I've got some lithium batteries, need to dispose of them. Let them take care of it. They've got a specialized system, specialized ability to handle lithium batteries. Do not, I repeat, do not throw lithium batteries into the trash, because a garbage truck can compact it, and when it does, a lithium battery can start on fire, because that's what lithium batteries do. Like I said, in electric cars, when they get into accidents, the battery gets crushed, and guess what? You get a fire in the automobile. Fire department shows up, they can't use water on it because it's an electric battery. Same thing goes for what you're throwing in the trash at your home. So you've been advised, do not, I repeat, do not put lithium batteries in your trash, because the garbage truck can be burned up, or worse than that, their facilities can be burned up. Take it to the Do-It-Best hardware store or the Batteries Plus. They'll dispose of it for you. It's a word of wise, a word of safety. Keep that in mind, because the city of Fort Wayne and the GFI environmental folks who pick up your trash are trying to tell you to do something, in hopes that you do. Because if you don't, you could be responsible for a fire that causes a lot of damage and possibly could affect your trash pickup. Think about that, folks. Do the right thing. Take your lithium batteries to the Do-It-Best hardware stores or to Batteries Plus. Be safe, America, and be safe, Fort Wayne, and don't do something stupid with your lithium batteries. Well, one of the biggest outrages that I've heard about in a long time happened in Washington, D.C. A young couple, Jewish couple, a gentleman by the name of Yaron Lelshinsky and his about to be fiancee, Sarah Milgram, were coming out at an event at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. And a gentleman walks up to him by the name of Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, Illinois, pulls out a gun and shoots them both dead. When he was apprehended, you know what he said? Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Now, someone explained to me what a 30-year-old from Chicago, Illinois, is doing in Washington, D.C., and deciding to kill a couple of young Jewish folks who are about to become engaged. Iran had just purchased an engagement ring for this young lady, for Sarah Milgren, and they were about to be engaged, and they're gunned down. Why? Simply because they're Jewish? Well, this is what happened. This is what's going on, and this is what we are contending with now. Things are happening, folks, in the background of this country. You know, Detroit, Michigan is the home of next door's Dearborn, a suburb of Detroit. It's the largest Muslim population in the United States. There was a conference there. 3,000 people attended. And their goal was to say, free Palestine and death to America. That's what they were yelling. Death to America in Dearborn, Michigan. What does this say about what's going on? They're celebrating the October attack and said it was the greatest thing to happen and more people need to die? And indoctrinating people in this country to say, hey, go out and kill more Jewish people? So what would happen if Jewish people started to say, okay, fine, let's go out and start killing people who are supporting Hamas? Because this is Hamas. This has nothing to do with the Palestinians. This is Hamas. This organization's goal is to do one thing, to kill Jewish people, destroy Israel, and take down America because America's supporting Israel. This has reached a stage, folks, it's very, very dangerous. When you get people like a 30-year-old gentleman from Chicago, Illinois, Elias Rodriguez, showing up and killing two Jewish folks just because they're Jewish, we got a problem. That's a very big problem, and something needs to be done, and something needs to be done very soon. Because if we don't stop it now, it's going to get worse. And maybe it already has. Maybe we just aren't seeing it yet. So how many out there actually watch the morning shows on ABC, NBC, or CBS? You know, the big three, ABC, NBC, CBS, the letter networks. Well, as it turns out, that they are fighting over who gets the audience in the morning for those of you who watch. And actually, it's not that many, because ABC's got 2.7, NBC's got 2.5, that's million, out of 330-some million in America. And CBS Morning is in last place, less than 2 million. Less than 2 million. You know, the basketball game featuring Caitlin Clark, when she had her opening game, was 2.5 million. More people watch basketball, watch CBS, NBC, or ABC than their morning shows. But, that being said, Gayle King, you might remember her. She was one of the ladies that went up on the satellite, flew up into the air, all the woman crew, and they had Jeff Bezos' fiance was in there. Remember? She was in the Blue Origin, I think it was called. And she went up, they came up 11-minute flights, or think themselves astronauts. Okay, now, Gayle King, she's one of the hosts of the CBS show, the morning show, and she's 70 years of age. Nothing wrong with that. You can do something at 70, that's fine by me. But did you know that she's earning, are you ready? $10 million a year. Are you earning $10 million a year hosting a TV show on CBS that has only 2 million or less than 2 million people watching it? Imagine that. The previous year, she'd earned $13 million. Well, now the word out is that when her contract expires in September, CBS may give her walking papers. And if they do, they say, well, CBS Morning Show is going to be in trouble. Well, they're already in trouble. They're in third place. But Paramount owns CBS, and Paramount is trying to get rid of CBS and sell it to a group called Skydance Media. Once again, big merger coming up, and Paramount is telling CBS, you've got to cut $500 million out of your operating expenses because that's what Skydance wants. And frankly, when Skydance, when and if they do take over, is going to cut even more because they're in the business of making money. And right now, the TV networks are spending money like drunken sailors. So, Will Gayle King lose her contract at CBS and her $10 million payday? Well, that's a possibility. So now you understand. These TV networks are paying people to be on the air buku amounts of money. 70-year-old woman earning $10 million a year, 5-day-a-week job for, 3-4 hours a day? That ain't bad work if you can get it. And she's got it. 1-year deal. Last year was 13 mil, now 10. Is she going to say, well, I'll take half of that to work? Don't really know. After all, now she's an astronaut, so she has a higher priority, a higher pecking order, if you will. So now you understand what's going on. TV races are a problem, but CBS even has a bigger problem because now the executive producer of CBS 60 Minutes has already resigned. The head of CBS News, her name is Wendy McMahon, she already resigned because there's a lawsuit going on that Donald Trump is suing CBS for $60 billion. CBS wants to try to figure a way of paying maybe $50-60 million to get out of the lawsuit. Because if it goes into court of law, based on CBS running different answers by Kamala Harris in a morning promo and an afternoon run of a particular story, well, they could be even in bigger trouble because, and here's something you got to remember, the FCC has to approve the sale of CBS to Skydance Media. And that's crucial because what administration runs the FCC? You might think about that. So, the news is not good for CBS. Gayle King, she may be out $10 million a year. And she may be facing another pay cut. Wow. You can't cut the pay of an astronaut, can you? Well, apparently you can. And CBS is worried about a big-time lawsuit. And they've got to get things taken care of, or else Skydance may not purchase them, and CBS could be left holding the CBS bag. That would be interesting. All things going on in the media, and now you know. Well, if you're one of those people that follows what's going on in the government, you probably know that at the crack of dawn this Thursday morning, May 22nd, the House of Representatives finally finished up a vote on the big, beautiful budget bill that Donald Trump wants to have put into law. The vote was 215 to 214, one vote margin. Now, you may be yelling and hollering, going, yay, this is wonderful, this is great. Well, folks, it ain't over till it's over, and it ain't over. Why? Because this bill sent from the House now goes over to the Senate, but in the Senate, they already have their own budget bill. Now, what happens is you get a conference committee. You get people from the House, you get people from the Senate. They come and meet in an office building, in a conference room, and they hash out the two different bills they each have. And ultimately, they say, okay, we'll take this, we'll take that, some from your side, from the other side, and they mold another bill, a compromise bill. Now, they all agree. Senate says, yeah, we can do that. House says, yeah, we can do that. And it may not be the bill that you think it was when it left the House. It may not be. Because the Senate may say, no, we're not accepting that. You find compromise. That's what the plan's all about. All right. So then, that new bill, hammered out by the House and the Senate, has to go back to the Senate to be voted on, and the new compromise has to go back to the House to be voted on. So now we got a third bill that came together with the two groups, and each Senate and House must vote on the final bill. There is the rub, ladies and gentlemen, because that one vote margin could end up crumbling and falling into the dust. Because if something is taken out or put into that new version bill, hammered out in the conference committee, that upsets some members of the House and say, we don't like that, we're going to change our vote, the entire thing could come crumbling down. And that ain't necessarily a good plan, right? Because the plan they're saying is, well, we want to have this on the desk of Donald Trump by, on 4th of July. put it in. There's some important things in there, right? I mean, things like the 2017 tax cut that was due to go at sunrise, that means sunset, be done. So next year, every house in America virtually is going to pay a lot more in income taxes. They're making that permanent in the new bill. Good. Taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, yeah, that's in the new bill. Deducting the interest off an American car that you buy that's made in America, a very specific car, you can deduct the interest from that. That's in the bill. Do I know about the taxes on Social Security for seniors? No, I don't know that. Are there cuts in Medicaid? Well, the requirements that people who want to get Medicaid have to work. And some other things in there going on to cut some of the spending the government does because the government spends too much money. We already know that. However, it's the compromise that is set in the conference committee between the House and the Senate that will control the new bill that both houses have to vote on. So I'm just telling you to be cautious. Don't think that everything is done, hunky-dory, you're going to get whatever it is, because the vote has to be done again. That's the way government works, folks. House, Senate, they each have a say. Now, the good thing is, because this is a reconciliation bill, you don't have to have 2/3 of the Senate to vote on it. It takes a mere 50 plus 1. 50 plus 1 in the Senate, but with a 215 to 214 vote in the House, there could be some very, very tense situations. And what would happen is some of those representatives who voted yes on the first vote, on the first bill, say, I don't like the second version and I ain't voting for it. It's tenuous, ladies and gentlemen. It ain't done yet. It ain't over till it's over. And right now, it could be very, very, well, let's put it this way. I would recommend you be very cautious in your thoughts on what you think could come out of this. Because maybe the things that you think you're going to get, it could be struck down in that compromise committee. Because in that committee, anything and everything could occur. It could be good, it could be bad. But let's wait and see what they come out with, and let's wait and see what the House is willing to accept as a compromise, and what the Senate is willing to do the same. All of this could be coming up in the next days and weeks ahead. And maybe, just maybe, the president will have a bill on his desk by the 4th of July. But it might not be the bill that you were hoping to get. Just saying by a word of caution, and now you understand this is the way your government works. Way back in 2024, when Donald Trump was running for office, one of the things he campaigned for on his for his effort to get into the presidency was the fact that the U.S. needed a special new anti-warfare situation around the globe. And what that means is basically a shield over the United States of America, a missile defense shield. Well, that was part of the campaign. Well, now that he's in office, he started to deliver on that, because recently the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, introduced what was called the Golden Dome. And the Golden Dome is essentially satellites and space technology to intercept missiles being fired by adversaries, possibly China, possibly Russia, that could be intercepted and taken out before they hit the United States. Now, some of you say, well, that sounds pretty familiar. Doesn't that already exist? Yeah, it does. It's called the Iron Dome. It's over in Israel, and they use that with Patriot missiles. You've probably seen it on TV. The attacks coming from Iran, suddenly the missile shields just come up and just shoot out all the missiles. You know, you get 100 missiles shot, 98 of them get shot down by the Patriot missiles. Well, those work pretty well for standard missiles, and I hate to use the word standard, but countries like China and Russia have begun to develop hypersonic missiles. These are a whole lot faster than the stuff you've seen being used against Israel. And then, of course, you have the premier of North Korea who's trying to dump missiles on who knows whom, but everybody wants to see about taking a shot at the United States. And missiles are the only option they have, because you've got the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, all those things separating those particular countries from the U.S. So we have the Golden Dome. Now, the president wants to see this thing up and running before he ends his term in the office in January 2029. Said it's going to cost about $125 billion. Well, the Congressional Budget Office is now saying, no, it's going to cost about $525 billion. And it's going to take 20 years to put something like that in. Well, here's the problem. The CBO always overestimates on things because they believe, well, anything through government's going to cost a lot and take a lot more time. Well, apparently, a number of Democrat senators, 42 of Democrats, have contacted the Pentagon's Inspector General saying, hey, you know, Trump does this, Elon Musk is probably going to get the contract for this, and they don't want that. Well, Elon Musk, obviously, he's a big supporter of the president. He's got a company called SpaceX, and they do a lot of things in space, and they do it, well, frankly, better than a lot of other people and a lot of other countries do. Let's be honest, you've seen the proof of the pudding. Well, the president wants to have this Golden Dome put in. And part of the problem you have to understand is with China and Russia inventing these hypersonic missiles, and also, and please understand this, apparently Russia has already got weapons in space, as do China. Now, weapons in space is a whole different animal, folks. And the one thing they're concentrated on doing in space is knocking out our satellite systems. We have satellites up here, keyhole satellites and a whole bunch of different satellites that watch everything they're doing. We see everything going on. Our GPS system operates on satellites. Our planes in the United States military now use GPS. Used to be the KC-135 tankers in the old days had a crew of 4 because one of them was a navigator. Well, that doesn't happen anymore because now everything is GPS. So if a country can take out a GPS system so nobody has it available, how are planes going to navigate themselves around? How are they going to know where to go? Well, take out the satellite systems. They say that Russia may have a nuclear weapon in space, a big boomer in space that could blow up satellites. There's also the issue that it could create an EMP, electronic magnetic pulse, and that could blow out everything electronic in a particular area where the pulse hits. As a matter of fact, you probably know this, Air Force One and the Doomsday plane, the 747, those are both anti-doomsday equipped. They've got a special equipment coating that doesn't allow the EMP signals to get into the facility and fry the electronics of what's inside the airplanes. But I can tell you this, EMP, anything that's electronic, it will fry. It's been proven it happens. But put a big nuke in, hit a big EMP, boom, blow out a whole lot of stuff in an entire country and nothing they've got works. The country's defenseless. Nothing will work because you can't launch anything without electronics, right? So, Trump says, let's put in a system, a Golden Dome, protect America from being shot at by missiles, and we'll have satellites to be able to see what they're doing when they do it, notice it, and then we can shoot them down and protect ourselves. Well, obviously, some people are fighting that. Say, no, that's not fair. We don't need that. It's going to cost too much money. But if our adversaries are already putting things in space and trying to knock out potentially our satellites, which they're starting to do, then do we need something to have it done to protect you and me and this country from the bad guys wanting to dump missiles on this country? Because that's the only option they have left. And if they're going to do it, they got to knock out the eyes and ears of America in order to be able to pull it off. Something to think about as we progress on the Golden Dome for the United States. Let's see what happens as time goes on. Well, more and more issues seem to be coming up involving Jake Tapper's book, Original Sin, and the fact that what he was saying was, I didn't know what was going on. It's not my fault. Well, guess what has just come out? The Wall Street Journal's editorial board published a story back in June of 2024. So remember, that's last year, last summer. And that article said, hey, something is wrong with Joe Biden. He is slipping, and there's a problem. Well, Jake Tapper was on a program called The Lead. And on that show, he said, no, there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. He's perfectly fine. He was quoting White House sources, saying that Biden was okay. But here's the part that got really interesting. At the end of his broadcast, shooting down the Wall Street Journal, he says, well, you know that the Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp. And we know who owns News Corp. It's the Murdoch family. The implication here was the Murdoch family owns the News Corp, which owns the Wall Street Journal, and they were the ones telling the Journal's editorial board what to write. Once again, a smear job. And right after that, Jake Tapper had on another Democrat who said, no, Biden is perfectly fine, everything is okay, nothing to worry about, things are just dandy. Really? Well, turns out Jake Tapper has gone on another show none other than Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough. And he said, Joe, here's what you said. Here's all the stuff that you said. You said you met with Biden, everything was fine. And Joe Scarborough said, yeah, I probably met him when they had him looking really good. It was like a lunchtime thing. And Scarborough goes, see, middle of the day. And Scarborough said, well, look, here's the problem. We didn't have anybody else. Who was I supposed to support? What was I supposed to say? You know what he's implicating right there? Saying there was nobody else available in the Democrat Party to fill in, to cover for Joe Biden running. Nobody. I'm implicating that Kamala Harris was not the one. And yet, she ended up being the nominee for the Democrat Party. Even though Scarborough told people to, F you if you don't believe me what I'm telling you, Joe Biden is at the top of his game. Because he said, we didn't have any alternative. What else was I going to do? Everybody is now making mea culpas on this. I didn't know, I wasn't prepared, I didn't dig far enough. Turns out, the White House press corps, some of the people in that press corps didn't know what was going on. They just did what they were told by higher-ups. Seems that there were 5 people running the administration. 5. One of them, Jill Biden. Jill was running the rodeo. Remember when Biden went over to Normandy for D-Day? Jill was running back and forth to Washington, D.C. Remember that? Turns out she was running the country. She was even doing cabinet meetings. And the cabinet people, they didn't know what to say. They were in the dark too, were they? Maybe. Because they didn't know what was going on. Biden didn't meet with anybody. He was kept hidden away. But the whole key was keep it hidden so nobody knows. Did America deserve to know? Well, back when FDR was president, he was in a wheelchair. The press didn't knew it, but didn't let anybody in the public know. John F. Kennedy had some serious diseases, serious situations, very debilitating. Did the media know? Probably they did, but did they tell the public? No. So, is there a concept here? The media is going to side with the president, provided he's with the right party, about whatever maladies they're suffering? Well, you can make that argument if you choose to. But in this case, we do know that Jake Tapper said, oh, I should have dug harder. But the truth of the matter is, he came out and said, hey, it's News Corp. They're the ones doing this stuff. So what did he really believe? Well, a CNN spokesman for Jake Tapper came out and wrote on X, the old Twitter, about a company called Gaybin. Gaybin does media clips for years and years and years. They pull all the media clips of everybody and what they're talking about. They've got a full series of media clips about Jake Tapper and what he has said about Joe Biden and publish them so people could see what Jake Tapper said over the years. A little video expose on what you were saying. So, CNN spokesman comes out on the X and says the following. The video is, as they said, is disingenuous edited to create a misleading narrative. So what they're saying, the video is lying. Are you going to believe the video or your lying eyes? Whatever. The clips are maliciously cut to omit context and to make comments by others appear as if they were Jake's comments himself. So what they're saying, don't believe what you're seeing in the media. They're lying. Believe what we tell you. This is where we are, folks. This is where America has gone. This is where our media has gone. Our media's fifth estate. Their job is to keep everything on the straight and narrow, but no longer. Now the media's job, support the party that you like, that you're a part of, that you are in your tribe. It's tribe against tribe, America. That's where we are in today's world. And if you've lost faith in the media, you ain't alone, folks, because a whole lot of people are figuring out the ABC legacy media is no longer honest. They have become tribal. And that's where we stand today.
Happy